Patrick Goldstein of the Los Angeles Times described it as a goofy delight. It's like a cross between a big-budget Three Stooges movie and a Hope Crosby road picture, with dozens of old cowpoke gags thrown in to spice up the brew. Rita Kempley of the Washington Post described it as a calamity of a comedy, the perfect complement to concession stand nachos con cheese. And according to Jeff Andrew of Time Out, if you enjoy brainless slapstick that allows space for irrelevant absurdities like a singing bush and an invisible swordsman, it's entertaining enough. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we determine the fate of Three Amigos.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be?
The Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Hey everyone, or should I say howdy, and welcome to another Ruined Childhoods. Yeah, that's right. The chaps are on. I am one half of your hosting dynamic duo, Dan Wiener.
And hey, I'm John Richardson. And on this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we're talking about some of our truly favorite fools, the Three Amigos.
The Three Amigos.
A musical Western parody, homage, call it what you will. It is...
Any of those.
Yeah.
All of the above.
All of the above. We talked, let's see. So far this month, we've talked about the Fat Boys and Disorderlies. We've talked about John Turturro, Mel Smith, and Bob Nelson, and Brain Donors.
And George de la Pena, thank you again for your time and your tales.
Everybody listening, if you have not listened to our Brain Donors episode, listen to at least the last 15 minutes. We actually get a chance to speak with the great Volare himself, George de la Pena. Such a great guy. I really appreciated his time. Just such a sweet guy, and very, very talented actor, dancer, etc.
And it's fun to hear. You don't often think about what goes into the playing of the portrayal of a character like the great Volare, but it's really interesting when you stop to think like, all right, now where did he get all this? Like how much of this was in the script? And so that was discussed, and just some other really fantastic insights into the making of that movie, which
totally,
I know many people probably haven't seen it. So,
which is a shame. It's a lot of fun. It's a dumb movie if you just look at it on its surface.
Like if you're in a bad mood and you have about an hour and 20 minutes to be cheered up, I can think of nothing better. I can think of few things that are better.
Yeah, I mean, most critics will disagree, but that said, not many critics reviewed it. So
not many critics are able to be cheered up. I don't know.
But that's not what we're talking. That's not what we're talking about this episode.
You know, what movie critics weren't too crazy about? Three Amigos.
That is true, and I want to also be clear. It is Three Amigos, not the Three Amigos.
Correct.
There are a lot of people who like to make the joke that if there were a Spanish version done, it would be called Los Tres Friends, and that's not true because there's no "the" in that title. Get it out of there.
Yep.
Yeah. So
get "thee" to a nunnery. Hey, Shakespeare shout out.
Oh, another classic Shakespeare shout out for all of our big Shakespeare heads out there. So
sorry.
Three Amigos. Dan, as you mentioned, critics did not care for it.
No, in fact, I'll share a funny story that in looking into the behind the scenes and some stories around the film. Chevy Chase was on Johnny Carson, the Tonight Show, to promote Three Amigos in December 1986. And I, by the way, did not see this at the time. I don't remember seeing this at the time. So I can't tell you where and when I saw the Carson show other than YouTube the other day. But Carson asks them, first they're talking about their favorite Chevy Chase movies, and they're kind of, they're singing the praises of Fletch and Vacation. Yeah. And then at a point in the interview, Carson asked, they're talking about like movies for the Christmas season. And he says, all right, what's your least favorite movie of the Christmas season? And Ebert just goes, Three Amigos. Yeah. He left out I think. Yeah. But, Chevy Chase's response was, I'm looking forward to your next picture. Yeah. Which I think was a reference to Roger Ebert's screenwriting effort, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
And that is that's a low blow, but rightfully said. Said. Have you seen the Siskel and Ebert like review show about Three Amigos?
Not recently. I'm sure I saw it back in the day, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
What's interesting is that I don't fully disagree with what they say. Gene Siskel talks a lot about how the beginning is funny and there are funny moments, but it's dull throughout, which I definitely disagree with. Ebert pretty much agrees with him, but they were both lamenting about Chevy Chase, saying that he just kind of showed up and didn't really do much. And I kind of agree with that. I'd say of the three of them, he definitely is the most laid back, kind of tuned out a little bit. I don't know. And it's because Steve Martin and Martin Short are so strong, I kind of don't mind that there's one of them that's just kind of like toned down a little bit. I don't know.
So it's interesting you should bring this up, because I was thinking about this earlier, not this like exactly, but I was thinking about the characters and I was thinking about the casting and about, what works about the casting. And I was thinking about Chevy Chase in his other roles. And it's kind of like, it's like he's done the smug thing.
Right.
Like at that point in, 1986, by 86, he had done Fletch and Foul Play and all that, Caddyshack. So he had done kind of the smug,
smarmy
slightly
guy.
Smarmy, kind of clueless guy, but the kind of rich guy, the clever guy, whatever. And it felt like Dusty and Dusty Bottoms. I love the
such a great names.
Name. I'm Lucky Day. I'm Dusty Bottoms. I'm Ned Niederlander. All the names are wonderful. I was thinking about the role and like it was kind of all right. So now Chevy Chase is going to play kind of the big doofy likable one. He's the
simple guy.
He's the Lenny. If we're gonna in Of Mice and Men terms, he's the Lenny.
Sure. And I mean, Steve Martin is perfect as kind of like the real leader of the group. Martin Short as kind of like the new kid, which works because I mean, this is his first starring role in a movie, so it kind of fits. And he wonderful.
Came around. He came on to SNL, and while Steve Martin was never an SNL cast member, he started making frequent appearances within the first few seasons of the show. So, Steve Martin was practically a regular around SNL, whereas Martin Short was new to SNL. Actually, he probably had just left SNL when he did Three Amigos. But so as in kind of like the ranking, it worked. It fit the characters. But to go back to Chevy Chase, it just felt like it wasn't that he wasn't doing anything. It was just he's just that kind of tall, doofy, like you can't dislike him. You just kind of feel a little bad for him. Like when they're yelling at him, Flugelman, Joe Mantegna is yelling at them. He goes,
another great name.
In all those pictures you did, the word nada. And Chevy, there's just that moment silence, and Chevy Chase is like, is that a sauce? Like
yeah.
Goes into like this description of this type of sauce. And it's this great moment where it's like, oh my God.
I will also say Chevy Chase does have one of my favorite lines in the entire movie when they're all in Mexico and they're eating, and he just asks, do you have anything other than Mexican food?
Which that was like the line in the trailer that sold
that was in the
movie.
Trailer. I love that line.
Yeah, and it's one of those where it's like it doesn't matter that it was in the trailer. It's funny every time.
It's so good.
But what I mean, and that along the same lines when they walk into the bar, into the cantina, I think they're outside the cantina. No, wait, they're inside. And Steve Martin goes, we're not Mexicans. We're not from around here.
So for anybody who hasn't seen this movie, Dan, do you just want to give a quick synopsis?
Quick synopsis. So in the movie, the Three Amigos.
Nope.
No, but
it's just called Three
Amigos.
But
they are the Three Amigos.
That is correct.
Because they sing it. So they're silent movie stars, and in these silent movies, they play these wealthy Mexican landowners who fight injustice as the Three Amigos. So it's kind of a take on Zorro and a lot of the old, Douglas Fairbanks pictures. And so the Three Amigos, when a small village is being terrorized by bandits who come in and they don't rape the women in silent film, but as much as they can, and take everything and rob them and loot. And then the Three Amigos come in and save the day, and they fight them off. And they each have their talents. Ned Niederlander's a sharpshooter, and Lucky Day, who's Steve Martin, does rope tricks, which for those who don't know, Steve Martin has known how to do rope tricks since I think he was a teenager,
right?
Working at Knott's Berry Farm, learning rope tricks.
That's true.
So, yeah, it's all in his memoir, Born Standing Up. Great book. So the Three Amigos, but in reality, they are a couple of spoiled Hollywood.
Yeah, they live in like studio housing, like the studio mansion or whatever, and like all their clothes are provided by the studio. Like, yeah,
they're from the movies. So anyway, so the Three Amigos have this successful run of movies, and then they decide to depart from the formula and do something a little different. And it's a total bomb. The studio head wants them to kind of go back to their old form. Yeah, Flugelman, Joe Mantegna of every David Mamet play.
Of course, everybody knows him from all the David Mamet plays.
All the David Mamet plays. Yeah, no, but Joe Mantegna. Also, what, CSI, which isn't he on Criminal Minds?
Sure.
Criminal Minds. Joe Mantegna, Criminal Minds. Anyway, he's Flugelman. His two other studio executives are played by John Lovitz and Phil Hartman, which the movie was produced by Lorne Michaels, and it was co-written by Steve Martin and Randy Newman. And
also Lorne Michaels was a writer on it.
Yes, and Lorne Michaels, but this is a screenplay co-written by Randy Newman, singer of I Like to See You Smile from the movie Parenthood. And then he wrote new lyrics for Toy Story, and then it was called You've Got a Friend in Me. So
yes.
back to Three Amigos. So anyway, this is like really happening. There's this village called Santo Poco in Mexico that's being terrorized by
real life.
Well, in real life in the movie.
In real life in the movie Three Amigos, not in one of the silent films.
Yes. So I guess the daughter of maybe the wealthiest man in town, who's not necessarily all that wealthy, Carmen, she and her brother Rodrigo go, they go into the cantina, which you could compare to the Mos Eisley Cantina. It's where, yes, we'll definitely find someone here who can fight El Guapo and his bandits. So they go in to this bar and basically she gets sexually harassed and they leave and they're passing by, or they go into the church to pray, and lo and behold, whatever day of the week it is the day that the church is used as a movie theater, and they see the Three Amigos and they think that these guys are for real. They think it's legit. So they send a telegram to the Three Amigos asking them to come and save them from El Guapo. The Three Amigos get this telegram just as they're thrown out.
I want to quickly interject. If I'm not mistaken, and I have not rewatched this, I watched it maybe a year or so ago, but isn't it so that to write the telegram was going to be too expensive, so they omitted a few words?
Yes, they omitted a few words, but
by omitting those words, it made it seem like it was a gig rather than a real thing. Yeah. They thought that it was that they were coming to do a show with like this big Mexican actor named El Guapo. Mm-hmm. So yeah, thank you. That was an important point. I mean, I guess one of maybe average or slightly above average intelligence would have understood the message, I think. Well, yeah, but these are arrogant Hollywood actors who think nothing except about their role in society and in movies. So to them, they are nothing but these big major stars. So of course it would have to be about reprising their roles as Three Amigos. Absolutely. That's the lens through which they view everything. So that's a really good point. And that leads us to Mexico. They go to Mexico to find Santo Poco, where they think they're going to do this show. They do. They have a musical number that is, I mean, just one of the best in, I think, all movies. My Little Buttercup. Which we, at a certain point, when my wife Alicia and I first watched this movie, or when she saw it for the first time, for me it was probably the 20th or 25th. It was when we were planning our wedding, and we debated staging and performing My Little Buttercup. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, clearly that was not necessary at that wedding. There was enough entertainment. But long story short, we didn't do My Little Buttercup, but I did sing it to Chloe a lot when she was a little baby. Yeah. So amazing, wonderful scene. And soon, so the Three Amigos eventually encounter El Guapo, or they encounter a couple of El Guapo's bandits who are basically like caught off guard and don't know what to do about these guys. So they just kind of run off. Everybody thinks that they like have saved the day. The Three Amigos think they've done their job. And yeah, I mean, they kind of just ride around and shoot their fake guns into the air and kind of do their little song and dance, scream and howl. Yeah. So, but then they actually have to deal with El Guapo, who they discover is shooting Jefe, El Guapo's second in command. Right. Who's played by, I'm blanking on the actor's name, but who was in Disorderlies. Yes. I
I have his name written down.
And while you're looking that up, I'll also mention that El Guapo is played by Alfonso Arau. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Who
Arau?
Arau? I don't know. He has appeared in a ton of movies, but also directed a few, including A Walk in the Clouds with Keanu Reeves in 1995, which was produced by the Zucker brothers.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's why it was so funny.
I believe that may have been the one that they did like right after Brain Donors happened.
So a Walk in the Clouds, I want to say, was summer 95.
95.
I remember their ad campaign had that Pretenders song, the I'll Stand By You. It was like Keanu Reeves running through a field.
Isn't it like a World War II drama? Not like
maybe
World War II.
It is
era
long before
drama.
the Pretenders were
Yeah.
popular. Yeah. So, and Alfonso Arau was also one of the bandits in The Wild Bunch.
Oh,
Sam Peckinpah, 1967. So Tony Plana.
Oh, right.
Who we know from Disorderlies and who plays Jefe in Three Amigos.
Yeah,
they have that famous interaction.
The plethora of piñatas.
Plethora. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, I think, really iconic lines in this movie. Just to kind of close out the summary, these men who are really kind of small men at the beginning are faced with this challenge, and just, are they going to actually be the heroes that they've always pretended to be, or are they going to be, the soft Hollywood, and unemployed actors? So they find a way to El Guapo has kidnapped Carmen from the village, and long story short, Three Amigos decide they're going to save the day. How many times have I said long story short? Yeah.
Long story, less long. How about that?
Could be a lot longer.
But they pull out a bunch of tricks. Hilarity ensues. It's a good time.
Lots of great one-liners.
A lot of great physical comedy.
And John, just to bring it back, since we're tying up our April Fools here, we do have some other personnel shared. It might not be as entertaining to watch in the credits, but this film was edited by Mr. Malcolm Campbell.
Right.
Dr. Malcolm Campbell.
Yes, we brought this up on the last episode. The director of Brain Donors also directed...
Editor.
What's that?
Editor of Brain Donors.
What did I say?
Director.
Geez, sorry, Dennis Dugan. Please accept my
seriously,
apologies.
Man.
It's
Respect
late.
for Dennis
I've
Dugan.
had a long day. The editor of Brain Donors also edited Three Amigos, the fantastic Malcolm Campbell.
And Three Amigos directed by John Landis, who really one of those directors who, I don't think has an Oscar on his mantle, but really his films helped define the 80s. I put him in the same category with Ivan Reitman, Richard Donner, John Badham, Martin Brest.
I'd say between him and Ivan Reitman, it's like kind of like, wait, did Ivan Reitman direct this one, or was it John Landis? Because it's kind
John
of
Landis, Ivan, Joe Dante.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like Ivan Reitman and John Landis worked with a lot of the same people.
Oh yeah,
they were both in the same
especially
scene.
Animal House, I think, because Ivan Reitman produced Animal House,
right?
And Landis directed it. Yeah, and Landis also directed Kentucky Fried Movie. So there's your connection to Brain Donors.
Sure,
you're welcome.
Zuckers.
All right. So back to Three Amigos.
Yeah, so back to Three Amigos. It's a lot of fun. Clearly, it has been it came out in 1986. It's been maybe too long since it came out for there to be necessarily a sequel. Also, I believe that 1/3 of those Three Amigos maybe doesn't talk to the other two. Certainly, Martin Short and Steve Martin are they're constantly touring together.
I mean, they live together now. I think they're,
They have bunk beds.
Yeah. If they don't, they should,
Right.
at least on the tour bus. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they did reunite so I think it was an Entertainment Weekly shoot. I have it. It's in the booklet of the Blu-ray, but they did like a Three Amigos reunited, and maybe it was 2011, 2010.
Oh yeah. I vaguely remember this.
Yeah. So, but it sounds like Chevy Chase has kind of burned a lot of bridges.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't necessarily know that would work. You know what you could do, though, John?
What could you do?
A musical? No. Actually, no. That was one of my thoughts, and I'm like, well, I can't just every week now just say, turn it into a musical. So. But I actually think a musical would work really well for Three Amigos. You could also, there's some other ideas I had with this. So one thing, if you had to do something with it, if you could find the right actors to play the younger Three Amigos, and I mean, we're talking like, early, like mid-20s Three Amigos. If you found the right actors to kind of play them, and you kind of show how they either like came together, or like maybe how they like, were they a vaudeville team? How did the three, who met who first? And it would be funny because you could also do it as, if you wanted to tie it together, if you want to involve Steve Martin and Martin Short, you could have it be like flashbacks, and have it, you could have a series, or you could have just a film, and where it's, the old Lucky telling his story and the old Ned telling his story. I don't know. Maybe they're different. Maybe they're both telling stories. I don't know. It's like a very special episode of the Golden Girls.
Well, and this is what we had talked about briefly with Brain Donors, with a young Flackpfizer with John Turturro as an old man kind of reminiscing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. That's true. But another thought that I had was not necessarily a sequel, not necessarily a prequel, but John, a few years ago, a movie came out called The Artist. And that movie was almost entirely silent, and it won Best Picture. And really nothing ever, I expected more silent films. I expected more of that in pop culture, and that really didn't happen, for better or for worse. And I'm wondering this just sounds like HBO produced this movie. HBO could do why not do a series? Harry Flugelman Presents.
Well, it's funny that you should mention that, because one of my ideas was a Flugelman centered prequel, which is so the one thought that I had, because I was starting to think like, oh, what if it was a Three Amigos like animated series, and that way it doesn't necessarily have to be the voices of the original people, and it could just be them getting into their antics, but it's complicated with them, these white actors portraying, Latin American people. So
you do a series of graphic novels or, comics.
I think that just it works for them to be doing that because this is a parody, and it is calling out what was happening at that time. But to constantly, I don't know, to do it now, I think would be a mistake. But to do a Flugelman Presents and have it be like centered around, was it Harry Flugelman?
Harry Flugelman.
Yeah. Centered around Harry Flugelman and the different productions that he has going on. Kind of like a 1916 version of like the movie Hail Caesar, the Coen Brothers movie that's centered around a studio, and it's the kind of studio
the Josh Brolin character
in
Hail Caesar.
Yeah, and kind of seeing the different productions that are going on. I think it could be really interesting for silent film era, and clearly wouldn't be Joe Mantegna, but does not have to be Joe Mantegna. It could be anybody as the Flugelman character.
David Krumholtz.
Oh, Oscar Isaac.
Listen, John, I think we've established Oscar Isaac can do anything.
He's perfect.
So, I mean, there's a place for him in this. Maybe Oscar, I know he's it's like, could he be El Guapo?
Oh, he could be anything.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac could be all Three Amigos. And actually, once we wrap up Three Amigos, we're going to get to some news. We had some trailers dropping.
Oh yeah,
including Oscar Isaac in the Addams Family.
Right. Yeah.
But, I just want to get some closure here.
Sure.
On Three Amigos.
So I'm glad that we are aligned on the Flugelman idea.
Centering on Flugelman, I like, and yeah, it's fun. I think it would also be fun to have like an anthology series of, I think both would work. An anthology series of like, short silent films, and you could get, I think you could get a lot of really talented people to contribute, and you could have different different filmmakers contribute episodes and, kind of, pay homage to different silent film genres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. Flugelman. So Dan, I want to know, do you have any memories from when you first saw Three Amigos?
I'm so glad you asked, John.
Of course I'm asking.
Because I do remember, and of course, going back this far, I might be wrong. I might be entirely off on this, but I have a pretty clear memory that it was one night of Hanukkah. I don't remember which of the 8 it was, but on that Hanukkah night, and I believe it was a school night, after dinner, or no, it might have been late afternoon, before dinner, before sundown, before candle lighting. Mom took me to the Westfield Rialto to see Three Amigos.
Okay.
And I do also remember when you first saw it.
Really?
Yeah. So, and this is another one with, I might be totally off on this, but I have a pretty clear memory. And this was during the summer 1987 trip to California.
Oh my God. Right.
And if I remember correctly,
which is when we saw Masters of the Universe.
Yes. Yeah. So, all right, get ready. If I remember correctly, and I believe I do, we were staying at the home of our mother's cousin, Cookie, Muriel, but known as Cookie.
Okay. Our listeners are taking notes right now and scribbling.
So man, context. Context is everything. So we were, and now that I think about it, I realize this was not the act of a kind person, but the act of an adult who wanted to get the children out of the way. So Cookie's husband at the time, Frank, drove us to a local shopping center where we went to the video store and picked out a movie to rent and picked out a snack from a supermarket. I believe we got Nestle Crunch popsicles.
Okay. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're such an insane person.
We rented the Three Amigos.
No, we didn't. We rented Three Amigos.
We rented the Three Amigos movie.
Okay. The movie called Three Amigos.
We rented the Three Amigos VHS video cassette.
Got it.
I mean, look, I could be totally wrong.
The odds of you being wrong with this many details is probably pretty slim.
So yeah, and I told you earlier that I had found some artifacts, and I think this might help people understand. So I found, and well, we'll post some pictures of these. I'll take some pictures and we'll post them to Ruined Childhoods Pod, our Instagram feed.
Yeah,
and
I'll also put them in this episode's description. And if you're using apps like Castbox or Pocket Casts, I believe, you'll be able to see the images in the episode description. Not all of them, not all the apps show it. But anyway, Dan, what you got?
All right. So what I have is this cigar box.
Oh my God, you still have the cigar box?
I still have the cigar box. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And this is where I started keeping ticket stubs, and I'm looking for the first one. I actually remember what the first one was. And now some of these that I've gone through since I found this are you can barely read it. Like you need some type of special light to read it. But the first one that I remember getting would have been April 1990, Bird on a Wire.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Bird on a Wire. But I also have in here a pretty
Con Air.
A pretty clear Con Air ticket stub. I have, so there were some that I know what they say only because I guess this was the month of that year that I decided to write down the words that weren't on there. So that would be Hot Shots.
Yeah, so the words are all faded. You can't read anything except Dan's handwriting that says shots.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what this was if I didn't write Fisher above King. Fisher King. So these are, I mean, some of these are like some of my favorite movies. Some of them are movies I forgot existed. But what's also cool is you could see the matinee price of $3.75.
Oh my God.
I've got, see, you wouldn't know what this was. You might think it was Dying Young if I didn't write
Young Guns 2
under Young. So I found my Addams Family stub in here from the original Addams Family. Wayne's World was in here. All three Austin Powers.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So, I mean, you really don't do like ticket stubs anymore for movies. And like, it's a lot of clutter, but I also miss it.
So, but you think that 1990 is the earliest one in there?
I'm pretty sure that was when I decided, like, all right, I'm gonna start keeping ticket stubs for movies. Because I think that was when I started to. I think that was when I like started just kind of going on my own to the movie theater to check out whatever was new.
Okay, listeners, I want to paint a picture for you of Dan's childhood bedroom. So Dan, along with some like full-size movie posters, also subscribed to Premiere Magazine, which does not exist anymore. And in Premiere Magazine, there were, it's kind of like wider than your standard magazine. That's the Curly Sue ticket stub right
Curly
there
Sue.
At Movie City.
Yeah.
So
Movie City 5.
So Premiere Magazine was kind of standard magazine height, but the width was a little bit wider, and they had these full page posters for movies, and Dan would rip them out or cut them out, and they'd be stuck to the wall with that like blue tack, like putty.
Yeah.
That I don't know if that exists anymore.
It sure does.
Yeah. So, but
I don't use it for.
But it was basically wall to wall movie posters. And
only ones that I saw. I would not put them up if I had not seen them yet.
Dan's bedroom door had a Terminator 2 Judgment Day poster on it for a while, full size.
Yeah, of course.
It was exactly what you think it would look like based on everything that you've heard Dan say over the course of the past 13 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, that was like what I did.
Yeah.
I watched movies. I didn't do much else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I feel like,
anyway,
Dan, what I feel like we should actually do is maybe in the next few weeks. Wow, that's a Blockbuster card right there.
That is a Blockbuster card from the Brunswick Shopping Center.
Oh my God.
And that's probably East Brunswick, New Jersey.
If we're having trouble figuring out what the next episode should be, we should just do a little blind grab from that cigar box.
Yeah, hopefully we could read what it is. Yeah, Shanghai Noon.
Yeah, otherwise we're just going to be doing Curly Sue reboots.
Yeah, no, like seriously, some of these, I'm like, I saw that period. I saw the Rockstar starring Mark. These were all the movies that I saw when I was on my theater tour in the Southeast.
Gotcha. Oh my God.
Yes.
That was was that the Children's Theater tour?
Yes, it was.
Right
Educational Theater Company of Louisiana.
So I feel like we've said everything that we need to say about Three Amigos. I do want to talk a little bit about, there isn't much in the way of news about reboots and sequels. I did read one interesting thing we had mentioned on a prior episode, that there was going to be a new Charlie's Angels. And
oh yes,
there was
Elizabeth Banks
with like Kristen Stewart. I forget who else was going to be in it, but allegedly it's going to not be just a straight reboot. It's going to be kind of a continuation of the television series and the McG movies. So it is not a straight up reboot. It is in a way a sequel.
It is canon.
It is allegedly canon. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, I just assumed it would be like another reboot, kind of like the
like the
McG,
2000s.
which the first one I thought was a lot of fun.
Bill Murray was in that one.
Yeah. Bill Murray. Mm-hmm. So okay, that's interesting. And John, have you seen the? I haven't seen the trailer for the Charlie's Angels. I did check out the Addams Family trailer.
Yeah, looks fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun. It takes there's like this moment. I had this moment of readjustment where it's like, that doesn't sound like Raul Julia, and then like the other voice in my head said, well, yeah, no, it shouldn't.
Right. Yeah. No. It's clearly not taking hints from the movies that came out. It's definitely doing its own thing, but being true to the original artwork. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
which I think one thing that like handlers of the Addams Family property have been really good about is being able to reinvent it every time.
Yeah.
From the original cartoon to the TV show to the
everything,
to the 90s movies, but then this animation and the style of animation that they're using, I think, is kind of like, it's the musical. But I think that this animation is it's the right next step in the evolution of the Addams Family.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, looks like a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Me too.
I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I know there's a new Child's Play teaser. I haven't checked that one out yet, though.
Neither have I.
Yeah, I don't think there's been too much other news. I mean, there's the new
new Star Wars
trailer. Did you have any thoughts about that?
I kind of at this point remind myself with every Star Wars trailer that all Star Wars movies have awesome trailers. Like Episode 2 had an awesome trailer. And I was a little disappointed with Last Jedi. I was a little disappointed with Force Awakens. I think there's this part of me that will never be able to accept like Star Wars movies that aren't the ones that I grew up in love with. And there's something about those movies, the original, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. There's something about them that it hasn't been. The only other Star Wars movie I've found kind of that energy in was Rogue One.
Rogue One is great.
Rogue One was great. Solo was great.
Yeah. Well, Solo was fun.
Solo a lot of fun. Solo was a lot of fun. Yeah, Rogue One is really good. Yes. So so that said, there's a lot of really fascinating theories about, with the title and what everything means. And we have, what the Emperor, what is back? Ian McDiarmid is back as the Emperor.
We will see what happens.
So it's intriguing. They certainly dropped, enough bait. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk about this when we actually talk about Star Wars. I enjoyed Force Awakens. I think that Last Jedi is good. And I'm looking forward to this because this is another J.J. Abrams. I like his work. I liked what he did with Force Awakens. So I look forward to, what is it? The Rise of Skywalker or something like that.
The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. You just held up, what was that? Austin Powers.
I have these are Austin Powers 2 trading cards, and I don't remember how I ended up with these. I don't know if I got them when I saw the movie or what.
Box of cereal.
Hey, no, something tells me it wasn't a box of cereal. I don't know. I'm kind of ruling that one out. It's just, when it's a box of cereal thing, like when it's from a pack, when it's like it's like if it was from a pack of wax paper covered cards that had like the gum in it, I would smell the gum.
It'd still smell the gum. Yeah.
From.
So Dan, do you want to tell our listeners what our next episode is going to be?
Oh my goodness. So for our next episodes, we bandied about quite a bit, John. So, after quite a bit of consideration, we've decided that for our next episode, we will be revisiting 1991's What About Bob?
Yeah. So the next episode is going to be released on the final day of April. So it kind of begs the question, we still have room for another April Fool. And when I asked Dan, does Bob Wiley count as a fool? Dan came back with a very interesting question. Who is the fool in that movie? We'll have to talk about it next time on Ruined Childhoods.
She'll be riding 6 white horses when she comes. She'll be riding 6 white horses when she comes. She'll be riding 6 white horses. She'll be riding 6 white horses. She'll be riding 6 white horses when she comes.
Excuse me.
Come on,
are you the singing bush?
Follow the sea with a yeah-ho, we'll blow the man down. Pay attention and listen.
Let me talk to him.
Excuse us. Are you the singing bush?
Yeah-ho, blow the man down. Yeah-ho, blow the man down.
Hello?
Yeah-ho,
Hi.
blow the man down.
Hi.
Give me some time to blow the man down.
Excuse us.
Good night, ladies. Good
Hey!
night, ladies. Good night, ladies. We're gonna leave you now. Merrily we roll
Forget it.
along,
My
roll
guess
along,
is this
roll
is the
along,
singing
merrily
bush.
we roll
Let's
along,
go summon the
roll
invisible
along.
swordsman.
Some of the invisible swordsmen.
My body
Can't believe I'm doing this.
lies over the ocean. My body lies over the sea. My body lies over
Let me
the
see here.
ocean. Oh, bring back
We
my
each have to
body
fire
to
one
me.
shot in the air,
Bring
say
back,
the magic
bring
chant,
back,
and the
bring
invisible
back my
swordsman
body to
will
me,
appear.
to me. Bring back, oh,
Chup,
bring
chup, chup,
back
chup,
my
chup, chup,
body
chup,
to
chup, chup, chup.
me.
Money!
Well, I got an old mule and her name is Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's the good old
Parley,
one.
parley, 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 parley.
15
Have
miles.
her.
We hauled some barges
That's
in
it.
our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay, and we inch of the way from Albany to Buffalo. Low bridge.
And I-
everybody
Oh,
down,
well,
low
Dad,
bridge,
got him.
for we head
Son.
to a town. You always know you're bound to get on the Erie Canal.
Great! You've killed the invisible swordsman!
Oh, I wish I was the one that cotton. Those times are not forgotten. Look away, look away.
He's dead, all right.
How was I supposed to know where he was?
Look away.
You were supposed to fire up.
We both fired